Hey guys, welcome to another video, and hopefully you're excited about this one. We're going to be looking at TaylorMade irons, and we're going to be looking at the Stealth iron, the P770 and the P790, and in my opinion these are all award-winning irons. So they've all got a different role to play, but they're all fantastic and almost market leaders in their division. So if you're excited to find out what each iron does and which one will be better for your game, stay tuned, and as always, click like, click subscribe, and hopefully enjoy the video. So kicking off, we have the P770, one of my favourite irons this year, and this is a very good club for a lot of players. The reason being, it's 33 degrees of loft, so it's weaker, and some players who are stronger hitters like to launch the ball low need that little bit extra loft. But what you're finding in modern day golf clubs now, the lofts are getting stronger and stronger, and if you want to go back into these kind of traditional lofts, you're then going to need to go into blades. So TaylorMade's P770 is a weaker lofted but slightly forgiving golf club, and I think that alone is quite appealing to a lot of golfers. Then you take into consideration that it's forged or forged body on a hollow head construction iron. It's still got the forgiving elastomer insert, and this iron looks really good. When you sit it behind the ball, there's not much offset in there, the top line's not too thick. Great looking golf club. So then we go into the TaylorMade P790, and over the years this iron has become a little bit weaker in terms of performance, so it doesn't go as far as the original P790. But that's not a bad thing. The original P790 went so far that some golfers were struggling to make it hold a green, whereas this year's P790 is very playable, and we can combine it with the P770s much easier. It's possible to use the P790s in the 4 iron, the 5 iron, and then start to look at the P770s from the 6 iron down to the wedge. And its appearance behind the ball doesn't look quite as big and daunting as the original P790s. Again, it's got that forged body, hollow head construction, and the elastomer insert in there to dampen out some of those off-center hits. TaylorMade's P790 is the right club for so many golfers, especially those higher handicappers aspiring to be a better player, but even those better players that are then looking for a little bit more distance. This golf club is almost all clubs to all men. There's a lot that this golf club can do. P790 is going to be a very good club for a lot of players this year. And then finally we've got TaylorMade Stealth Iron. Now this is a great club in my opinion too. Then finally we look at the TaylorMade Stealth Iron, a good looking club. It's a little bit cheaper in price compared to the P770 and the P790, but in terms of performance you still get a lot of club for your money. This golf club is cast, but TaylorMade claim that it is forged feeling. And one thing I will say is it's a lot better than last year's Sim 2 iron. TaylorMade Sim 2 irons last year didn't look that great, didn't feel very good at all. Actually, they felt awful, to be quite direct about it. But for some golfers, it gave the forgiveness they needed. It just wasn't a very good replacement for the M6 iron. So when we look at the Stealth iron, really we're looking at a cheaper version of the P770, P790 with stronger loft, aiming as a game improvement iron. I think you could see the Stealth iron in the hands of a 15 handicap and feel pretty comfortable with that, knowing they're going to get more distance, more forgiveness on off-center hits, and just make the game a lot more enjoyable for them. So after all this positivity, let's go look at these golf clubs, see how they perform, and they're all going to be used with the same shaft, same ball, and we'll check out the data. So we're going to begin with the P770 Forge, good looking club, minimal offset, looks great behind the ball. And this golf club for me is a very good golf club for maybe a professional or a very low handicap golfer who doesn't get to play as much as he used to. So he might have, that's sad to say, he might have been past his peak, but he still wants to play a better player's iron, but just wants that little bit of forgiveness. So for a lot of ex-club champions, this is going to be a great club. This club's also going to be good for those golfers that might be a 10 handicap and they're aspiring to be that 5 handicap. And what I found with this golf club, if I hit it a little bit out the toe or a little bit out of the heel, I get that sensation of I know where I've hit it on the face. So the feedback you get from these irons is great. And I've got to say, for hollow head irons out on the market, TaylorMade make the best feeling hollow headed irons that I've tried. Trying to hit these a little bit firmer today, just to get a bit more of a representation of these firmer shots. So one thing I will say, this golf club itself is something a bit of a niche that there isn't much of in the golf market right now. 33 degree lofted iron, 7 iron. So people want these, and the reason why they don't want their irons to go too far. If you create too much ball speed off of the 7 iron, you might then get gapping issues at the bottom end. So better players tend to hit a lot more wedge shots. So you'd then have a problem trying to find the gap right between your pitching wedge, maybe your approach wedge, gap wedge, sand wedge. The P770 with a 33 degree 7 iron is easier at the bottom end of the golf bag. The P770 for me is also a considerable replacement to the AP2. I could see myself playing these irons pretty comfortably. Now, who is the P770 not for? Really bad ball strikers would be one, people who need more forgiveness. Second to that, players who hit the ball high. These are more retro lofts, 33 degrees. If you find you tend to release a little bit too early, hit the ball too high, you don't play well in the wind, maybe the P790s are more suited to your game. Okay, now time for the P790. And let's see if I notice a change in feel between the P770 and the P790. It does look a little bit bigger. The top line's not intimidating, it's a little bit chunkier, a little bit more offset, but it's still a very good looking club. So even when I don't hit this out of the middle, the feel's pretty good, but I also get the feedback, I hit that out of the toe, I hit that out of the heel. But again, good looking club, definitely chunkier than the P770, but by no means chunky. Kind of like a girl with a little bit more meat on the bones, but not too much. So as this ball lands, who's the P790 for? Well, it's going to be those that want a little bit more forgiveness than the P770. So this could be an 18 handicap to a 12 handicap iron, but even players below that could use that, especially those that need help in getting the ball flight down. And let's be honest, that's probably 80% of the golfers that need that ball flight flattening a little bit. If you're a golfer who plays an extra stiff shaft in your driver to knock the spin down, you might need it in your irons too, and the P790 head can do that, so you don't need to go super heavy in the shaft. But that being said, the backspin's a lot better than the earlier models of the P790. If you had an old version of the P790 and you were looking to upgrade, you'd find that you'd be able to hold the green a lot better with the new models. So first of all, when we look at the Stealth iron, yes, it's bigger, yes, it's offset, yes, it looks more like the M6, but thankfully less like the Sim 2 iron. The Sim 2 Max and the Sim 2 Max OS, really chunky looking clubs, and this is 28 degrees. It's quite strong, but they still say from TaylorMade it's high launching. They also claim that it feels like Forge. Now, one thing I will tell you from hitting this many times is it's a much better feeling than the old M6 and much better than the old Sim Max too. Does it feel like Forge? No. Does it compete with the P790, P770 feel? No. Does it feel good? Yes. Just bear in mind that the P770 and the P790 are the best feeling hollow head construction irons on the market. This is trying to compete with them. It's not Forge, but it's around $200 a set cheaper. Now, what TaylorMade used to have a problem with, and I found it hard to beat people's fittings who had burner irons, they used to create these long irons that didn't stop on the green. Looking at the spin numbers on these irons, you can still make the ball stop. That's kind of important if you want to play good golf. Now, another thing to say about these irons, I think I could hit this off the toe of the heel all day long and I'm still going to get it down the fairway. The forgiveness on this is the next level to the P790. So if you do want the easiest way to play golf with a golf club that doesn't look super big like the old Big Berthas, this has got to be on your list. It's got to be on your wish list. Now, another thing to consider when you go get fit for golf clubs, make sure you take a ball or you use a ball that you play on the golf course. Now, if we start looking at the Stealth iron and we're looking at a higher handicap iron, these guys that go fit for the Stealth iron probably are not playing Pro V1s all the time. So you're going to find you need this golf club that launches low but still manages to create backspin, because as soon as you drop from that premium ball, you're going to lose that backspin, especially on the pitching wedge and the 9-iron, and you really don't want to feel like every shot you hit with a 9-iron and pitching wedge is a flyer. You don't want that extra 15 yards on them. So it's essential that these Stealth irons are the way they are. They launch relatively low, but they create good backspin. This is actually the second time of me filming this video, because the first time there was no audio. So if I'm rambling on, it's because I've done it all before. And if that's not worth a like, I don't know what is. Oh, that was really out the middle, and that felt great. Yeah, very good feeling irons. Don't feel as good as the P770, don't feel as good as the P790, but they feel great. If you're considering the Callaway Rogue ST irons, reevaluate your consideration and go check these out. P770, P790 and the Stealth irons. If you're looking at the Rogue ST Pro, go consider the P770s instead. If you were looking at the Rogue ST Max, go consider the Stealth iron. Whatever fitting you're going for, please do not write off these TaylorMade irons, because this year they've got the market leaders in game improvement irons, they've got the market leaders in better players hollow head construction irons, and they've got the market leader in performance distance irons. And for the data heads out there, let's have a look. The P770 is the lowest ball speed. We would expect that with the weaker lofts, and it was launching slightly higher than the P790 and a degree and a half higher than the Stealth Iron. And then because of that launch angle difference as well, we're going to start seeing differences in backspin. But notice this, notice how the Stealth Iron is still backspin at 5,500. Whereas when I look at the old Sim 2 irons, I found it really hard to get that ball to spin around 4,500 and above. So now we are starting to get a golf club that when it lands on the green, it's actually going to stop on the green. So some much better numbers on there. And then in terms of carry between the range, I'm finding about 6 yards between the range. But if we had a look at the average shot, that'd probably be nearer to around 10 yards between the ranges as well. So overall summary on this one, P770, better players iron who want to get the ball up in the air, who are not afraid of playing in the wind. The P790, those golfers that want to launch it a little bit lower, want high performance, want some forgiveness, but don't want a golf club that's super big and super chunky. And maybe they're a higher handicap player, but they're aspiring to be better and they want a set of golf clubs they can grow with. P790, great club. And the Stealth Iron, maybe more for the recreational golfer, the high handicapper, the game improvement iron. It performs very well, it looks very good. It's a golf club that's deceivingly good performance, especially when you consider it's $200 to $300 cheaper than a set of P770s and P790s. And although it's not forged and although it doesn't feel quite as good as the P790 and the P770, it is by no way the ugly duckling bad performing iron. It's a great performing iron. Well done TaylorMade, this year you have nailed it.